We have clients that, they're high income earners. They have very low debt. They run very lean. So they have the ability potentially to absorb two, three, four, five properties and still be under the ratio that's specified by Fannie Mae.
Welcome to the STR Home Financing Podcast, where we believe a legacy is something you build, not just something you leave behind. And now, here's your host, Jeff Chisum.
Hey, Jeff Chisum with STR Home Financing. I really appreciate you joining me. Hopefully you found value through the previous broadcast. This is episode 6. And so I am here. My hope, my goal, my desire is to educate you on the various financing options around acquiring short-term rental properties, vacation homes, real estate that you can go have fun in and then make money with. So today we're going to touch on policy around the 10% down second home occupancy loan. So our typical client, we are usually not having a conversation around buying one property. So most of my clients are looking to build a portfolio of these types of properties. So my wife and I are on that same route. So our goal, by the time that we decide, hey, don't want to work anymore, let's go have fun full time, is to have 10 of these properties. And our biggest worry and concern is, hey, honey, where do you want to go live for the next month? Well, it's hot here. Let's go find somewhere cool. Or it's cold here. Let's go find somewhere warm. I had a client a few months ago. We were talking strategy. And he said, Jeff, the older I get, the more simple my strategy gets. And I'm very curious at this point. What is it? Tell me, please. He said, I am simply chasing 72 degrees year round. I was like, that is awesome. The older I get, I can definitely relate to that strategy. So I'm kind of in that same line. I'd love to chase 72 degrees year round. So how do we do it? Where do people find the money to buy 10 properties? So the clients that I'm working with, we're not usually talking about buying one property. We're strategizing on how do we buy more than one property. So the 10% down second home occupancy loan with Fannie Mae is going to be a fully qualifying loan. So you've used this type of financing in the past, typically on a primary residence. You're going to submit 2 years of tax returns, W-2s, pay statements, bank statements, and then everything is based on your ability to fall within a certain debt-to-income ratio using your documentable income up against your personal debt. So in the case of a second home, you have to show the ability to take on the PITI payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment into your ratios without the consideration that this property is going to be able to generate income. So you've got to be able to absorb that PITI payment into your ratios and still be below the certain the specified ratio that Fannie Mae sets, which the sweet spot is under 45%. We've had cases where we get approvals at 50%. So that's going to vary from client to client, but definitely something that we do as part of our pre-approval process when we're going through and we're analyzing everything. So we have clients that, they're high income earners. They have very low debt. They run very lean. So they have the ability potentially to absorb 2, 3, 4, 5 properties and still be under the ratio that's specified by Fannie Mae. Some clients, it's one property. So no matter where you are, there's typically going to be a ceiling that you're going to hit from a debt to income ratio standpoint. So what does that look like? How do you scale once you hit that? There's another product called a debt service coverage ratio loan, which we're going to have a whole episode on the DSCR loan. But that loan, we don't even look at income. There is no debt to income ratio standard. It's your ability to put down 20%. And then we're solely looking at the property's ability to generate enough income to match the PITI payment for approval purposes. But when we're using the Fannie Mae 10% down, which I've said on previous episodes, 90% of my clients are using that because it's the low entry point. It keeps the most amount of cash in your pocket. It's the most feasible option for people. How do you scale with that product? Well, after you have received, you buy your first one. Let's just use the example of you've maxed out your debt to income ratio on that first one. After you've received income for 12 months and it's documented on your tax returns, you can use that short-term rental for qualifying. So a very good and common scenario is that income that you're showing, and of course, and that's the other thing I'll step in here and say, something I would have done before I bought my first property is had my CPA in place that would have formulated a tax strategy for me. Not just any CPA, one that specializes in short-term rental or clients that own short-term rentals. So you've got that income on your tax return. A common scenario is you're showing enough income, but still taking advantage of things like accelerated depreciation, your common write-offs, but showing enough income where you're really impacting the debt side of the equation, the PITI payment for that first property, or you're matching it, or maybe you're even exceeding it, but you basically just created another spot within your profile to go out and do another loan. So how many can you do? You can do, Fannie Mae will allow you to have up to 10 mortgages in your name, and there is no policy as we speak today, as this episode is broadcasted, that says that all 10 of those couldn't have been second homes. So people ask me all the time, how can I have more than one second home? Well, they need to be in more than one destination area typically. So, that goes back to, we want to chase 72 degrees. So maybe you have one in Florida, and then you have one in Colorado, Utah, Tennessee. They're just these lifestyle assets that you can travel, you can visit, but they're in different parts of the country. Because if you go back to one of my previous episodes where we talk about the number one bullet point on the policy is that you have to occupy the property at some point during that first year. There's no specified amount of days that you have to spend in the property where someone would say, well, there's only 365 days in a year. How many second homes do you actually need? So that is not a limiter. It's typically going to be that debt to income ratio, but there still is the ability to scale if you have the right information. So hopefully this helps. It's equipped you as you're thinking about your strategy, you're building your portfolio, your game planning. Always happy to have further discussions. Look in the show notes for our website, strhomefinancing.com. Would love to visit with you. Until next time.
Jeff Chisum is a registered mortgage loan officer, NMLS 673623 for North Point Bank, NMLS 447490. North Point Bank is an equal housing lender. All programs and products discussed on the show are subject to change without notice.